enhancing their right. So we wanted to use this time today to brainstorm and have a conversation, some industry leaders, on how you can curate your employee-centric wellness journey as we sort of re-emerge from this hybrid context to a lot of companies are also resuming normal work. So how do you think about this context and how you can frame the right policies in this context? So, quick housekeeping before we start and I introduce the speakers. You will have time at the end of this session to ask questions. So, feel free to post your thoughts, comments, and questions at any time during this session, and we will take them up at the end. So, you'll find the chat box at the right hand side of your screen where you can post questions or your thoughts and comments at any time. All right, so I'm very excited to introduce our panel of speakers here today. We have with us Kapil Mahajan, who is the head for business human resource at Tata Advanced System. Welcome, Kapil. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you so much.
All right, we also have with us Mukesh Agarwal, who is the chief people officer for Tata Steel Long Products. Um, hey, Mukesh. Thank you for being
here. Jerry.
We also have with us Srinivasan N, who is the Deputy Vice President at TVS Credit Services. Welcome, Srinivasan.
Pleasure is mine, Jerry. Pleasure to be with the panel.
Absolutely. We also have with us Raghuveer Malik, who is the Head of Corporate Insurance at PolicyBazaar.com.
Hey, Jerry. Thanks for having me here.
Great. Fantastic. So without any further ado, let's start this conversation. So I have a quick icebreaker question for all of you, which is, what is your organization's number one wellness goal for this year ahead? Can we start with Kapil?
It's very simple and very smart, Jerry. It speaks about care with compassion.
That's great. That's very brief and very impactful. Mukesh, would you like to go next?
So our objective is 100% fit people, zero lifestyle diseases across all segment of our employees.
Fantastic. Srinivasan?
Yeah, ours is we have quite a lot of initiatives launched. So one is the coverage of that, not only for the employees, but also the family members, utilization, and keep the employee and family healthy.
Yeah. On our end, look, I'm speaking on behalf of my HR team, but I think it would be curated and relevant wellness offerings presented to employees in a consumer-centric manner, right? In a manner in which they are actually able to absorb all the nuances and intricacies that our HR team works very hard to curate for our employees. And we'll talk about that more as we move on.
Absolutely. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that. I think it sort of encompasses, I think, the holistic perspective that there's been a shift on, right? I think when we talk about care and compassion or achieving, our zero goal on diseases, I think, and also we spoke about curating the right policies for employees and this employee-centric perspective. I think all of it sort of encompasses that holistic idea. So thank you so much for sharing that. So Kapil, let me ask you, as we inch our way and we're thinking about this post-pandemic context, what are some wellness trends that you're seeing on the rise?
So, very good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jerry. So, before I start sharing the details, which I have seen in last couple of months, I just wanted to take a step back and wanted to reflect what exactly has happened in last 2 years. And if you exactly see what has been happening in last 2 years, I would like to see them in two categories. One, what has been happened with employees in last 2 years, and when I'll say employee, I largely referring it as a what has happened to people, and then what has been happened to the organization, and it is important to reflect on that because any trend which is emerging out of this today has a background with it. So let me touch what has been happened with people in last 2 years. So if you see in last 2 years across the globe, many of the people have seen losses. And there are personal losses. There are pain. There are anxiety. There's a lot of loneliness in their life. Uh, Everything all of a sudden has just vanished from their life. People are experiencing depressions. People are not being able to think in a very, very mature and stable way. So that's something which has happened to people in last 2 years. If you see the another part of it, if these are the areas which has really put people in a difficult times, there is a new leadership traits which are emerging. So empathy, being patient, having a personal resilience are some of the leadership traits which today people are expecting to demonstrate because that toughness of the time still have not gone out of the way. So there's been a change happening in the demand of the organization from the people who are as an employee in the organization. If you see it a further worsen in those cases, if you just think those scenarios when the normal cost of a bed, the normal clinical cost of affording a COVID treatment has gone beyond the control of a single individual. People felt that there was a need to have a financial corpus to manage their medical elements. But as they were never been prepared about such eventualities, they could not able to create those. So these are the things which has happened in last 2 years and people have experienced it directly or indirectly. You look organizations today. So organizations have seen a complete change the way the organizations were operating. Hybrid has become a new normal for the entire organizations post-pandemic. Still, many organizations are operating on in hybrid mode. Organizations still not been able to stabilize and give that confidence, even after so many measures they have taken to come people back into the organizations. So there is a challenge to the organizations in terms of leading the entire hybrid model of getting people on board across organizations. Another critical area which you seek organization today, the health used to be an individual perspective. Today, health is in a boardroom discussion. Organizations are very seriously discussing about health because they are seeing health becoming synonymous with the productivity. So these are the things which has been happened in the past. If you do the analysis of all of them, I see clearly five trends are emerging out of it. One, there is a sudden rise in terms of the pain and anguish in people. The mental health offerings are on rise today. Organizations has gone into the hybrid mode. There's an increase in the digital enabled wellness programs. As organizations have also seen health becoming a major area of conversations for keeping the productivity alive for their new business models. It's a top down wellness sensitivity which is increasing in the organization today. Today, CEOs are talking about the good health and index, and they are talking about the health scorecards. So more and more metrics of the health related are now getting the place into the organization's top influentials. The rise of the personal resilience, the empathy has also creating a greater need to have a spirituality. And that's the reason you see spiritual wellness offerings are continuously rising because there's a greater need to be have a calmness to think logically and consciously. And above all of it, today, every employee have decided personally, irrespective what has been my earning, there's a greater need to invest in health because if I have that corpus with me today, whether it is in the form of medical insurance or whether it is any deposit in house to manage that eventuality which can happen at any moment of it, there's a sudden need of wellness of financials has gone up. So to sum up, These are the five trends which I see are emerging very, very fast. And as they have a relevance with the past, they are going to be sustainable. And I think organizations and ecosystem has to focus on these rising trends. And there's a greater need to discuss and deliberate on that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kapil. I think you took us to a little bit of a recap for the whole 2 years, right? Right from the loneliness, the loss that people went through, both emotionally, financially, and also the impact that it's had on individuals and also company values, right? And I think the rise of mental health is something that you pointed out, and how organizations have still not, many of them have still not figured out the right way, and also there's a need to think about the financial aspects as well, right? When we think about health and wellness, both from individual as well as organizational perspectives. So, thank you for sharing that. So, Mukesh, I'm coming to you with a similar question on trends. Could you also talk about how it's impacted your own wellness plans in your company?
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. Rightly pointed out by Kapil that the importance of health and wellness was never ever so realized as it was uh, in after the post-COVID realizations were there. So we started off almost 1 year back in our wellness plan, and we introduced a wellness charter for all the employees, and we adopted a wellness charter from government of Singapore. Singapore has a wellness charter for all its citizens, so we adopted something from there, and we made it mandatory. So we work in a manufacturing company, and safety is given a paramount importance. So we decided that along with safety, wellness is something that will be equally given a same level of importance, and we launched Panch Tattva of wellness, which is physical wellness, mental wellness, social wellness, spiritual and financial wellness. For the first year, we thought that let's our focus be on physical, mental, and social wellness. But again, we thought that we should do it quick, fast, and we should be aligned with the rising trend. People are largely aware about health and wellness, but they are not motivated enough to take it seriously unless there's a trigger point which prompts them to take it quite seriously. And we realized that the health of the company is largely determined by the health of our employees, and therefore we took it very very seriously. So we did a lot of initiatives. We launched a wellness app which is accessible to all the employees, their family members, and the app has multiple features about recording some health parameters and doing some competitions, walkathons, webinars, awareness sessions, doctor consultations, myriad of options available over there. So that was made accessible to everyone, even to a worker, even to an executive officer and their family. And we have been promoting its usage. We have also realized that generic programs may not help, and every individual needs to be given a specific curated program on wellness. Now, let's say we do a program on lifestyle management. We attend the program and then we forget. We don't take it seriously. So, basis our annual health checkup records, we categorize employees into low risk, medium risk, and high risk. And amongst medium risk and high risk, we found out what are the specific lifestyle disorders of which a person is having. And we curated individual programs. So, right from doctor to a nutritionist to a exercise expert, all those curated programs have been offered to people. And depending on their age profile, their medical history, and the kind of work which they have been doing, within the same set of programs, multiple options were offered. So some people went for a program on general fitness, some people went for a program on diabetes reversal, people went for a program on weight reduction, people went for a program on improving immunity through yoga, and we have found some great results on that. And in fact, that has been one of the biggest reasons for our great retention rate of people. Our retention is almost 98%, and people have come forward and said that something which nobody else could have thought, the company has thought, and they are quite charged up with that. Also, we realize that there are some people who need to be rotated and out of one unit to the other unit because of the health reason. If somebody is working in a crane, if the health is not permitting to work on a crane, we have gone into the granular level and we have rotated and rehabilitated that employee into another area whereby his health is meeting the requirements on the job. We have been doing a lot of awareness sessions, both mental as well as physical. We have recently started a mentoring program because, in spite of doing all these efforts, there will still be some set of people who will not be encouraged to participate in these programs. So, we have done a survey, identified mentors. To all these mentors, will be assigning 3 to 4 people who will be regularly motivating them to into participating into some of the programs. Uh, for some of the for the social wellness part, we have taken a big stride in volunteering. So, along with our corporate social responsibility team, we have launched a volunteering policy whereby a person can be given uh, attendance while working for a social cause, which will nourish his social wellness requirement. And a lot of people have come forward, and now they take sessions on, uh, they take tuitions for the poor and those destitutes. They offer voluntary and community services, going to the nearby community areas and all that. For mental wellness, we have again partnered with an agency and who have been offering counseling services, who have been taking care of mental health and well-being. For spiritual, we have organized some sessions on Brahma Kumari. So if you will see that encompassing all folds of wellness, we have taken and made a beginning. This is also to start a campaign and a revolution in the company, that this is a subject which the company is quite concerned about. This is the subject where the company would really want everyone to focus about. And this is not a choice that you are going to have. This is a must you have to have. We have not gone into an extremes that, there are few companies who are offering promotions if you, or increments if you lose a certain weight. So 10 kgs weight and you get a certain amount. But we started in a humble manner and we want to go ahead big time on this. Our fundamental objective is next 3 years, none of the lifestyle diseases should be existing in any of the employee segment that we are having out here.
Great, great. I think I really like the point that you mentioned on personalizing programs. And I think I really like the approach that you shared, right? And you're focused also on motivating employees, creating mentoring programs, and categorizing employees as well, and being sensitive to their own health needs. So I think there's a great takeaways on how maybe some of your peers can also personalize programs. So thank you for sharing that, Mukesh. So Srinivasan, I'm coming to you with the next question. As we think about wellness agendas for the entire enterprise, we've heard some values that Kapil earlier highlighted, right, with respect to empathy, patience, resilience, and these values are increasingly becoming important for the organizations. What are some challenges that you're seeing that leaders are dealing with, and how are you also thinking about bringing values into wellness? I think you're on mute, so you'll have to unmute yourself.
That was a great question, Jerry, actually, and very very rightly put across by Kapilji and Mukeshji. The canvas of wellness is increasingly more important than any other time right now. And this, I was just thinking, if at all you would have asked the first question 2 years before, like what would have been a one organization goal, with all due respect to people who underwent the scenarios for COVID, I would even state that 100% of my employee having 98% O2 level, right? Because we imagine a scenario where, just to give TVS credit, we are present from Kanyakumari to Guwahati on field. This is a distributed setup what we have, where people are on field per se. And we, as Kapilji rightly put across, we did experience some personal losses. And just to go back, where the HR were focused on tracking the O2 levels of employees who are admitted in hospital on a daily basis. We ended up, and we had an internal medico team which said, okay, does he need remdesivir? Does he need any other medication? Does he need to be shifted to better hospital? And contacting the families. So those were the scenarios we went through, which we never imagined as an organization and the employee care we would go into. Rightly put across, empathy, resilience, patience. For few more, I just wanted to add is the inclusivity, availability, accessibility, because having seen people who from Dhanbad to Guwahati to Kanyakumari, obviously the medical infrastructure, the availability of the infrastructure is not common across India. And as an organization, for example, one of the initiative what we took during the time, which we're continuing now, was we set up something called Doctors on Call. We had an impaneled doctor on call where individual regional wise, we had selected panel of doctors with hospitals where the employee could call up and seek immediate, at least the immediate medical assistance. Example, I'm talking about the accessibility, the speed of response, right? And the speed of response, because the hourly need, the need of the hour is what matters during any emergencies in terms of this one is concerned. These are reactive, of course, I understand. On the proactive side, as very rightly put across, nothing gave more enlightenment or awareness in terms of what are the controllable and the non-controllable environment we would operate on the wellness. COVID really taught us, irrespective of the amount of resources one have, accessibility to a hospital bed, how difficult what it was, vis-a-vis comorbidity, which is very well in my control. Very rightly put across by Mukeshji in terms of lifestyle diseases. How can I have zero lifestyle diseases? So those are clear focus in terms of the inclusivity, not only for the employee as well as for the family. That we are pretty clearly focused from the organizations which I'm representing now, TVS Credit, where he said uh, we saw not only the stress and the emotional strain, not only on the employee's wellness, but also any near and dear in the family. It directly, obviously, correlates and affects the employee's morale, performance. You call it, you name it, it has an impact. So all the wellness program clearly focuses not only on the employees for us, both the mental, social, right, the Panchsheel plan, but the approach, what Mukeshji rightly said, we also really focus on physical, mental, emotional, social, and the financial part of it. There are a lot of programs which probably will develop on down the line when we talk about the digital initiatives, what we have. But it's not only the employees, but also the families' whole wellness being is the focus for any program we try.
Great, great, fantastic. I really like the emphasis on inclusivity, and I feel like that's become very central to business conversations um, during remote work also, because it just opened up
Absolutely.
a lot of opportunities for different people to join the workforce as well. And I think you spoke about the environment, also the impact of the family. I think that's very critical, right? I mean, even if you're a caregiver, then you may not be fully present. You may have your own sort of mental issues to deal with. So we need to think about it in a much more holistic manner from an environment perspective as well. So Raghuveer, I'm coming to you with the next question. All of this, of course, comes at a cost, right? I mean, it's something that you've been looking at very closely, and we're seeing a steady rise in investments in group health insurance as well. How
Yeah.
would you suggest HR leaders should look at when they're considering some of the critical choices that they're making from an insurance perspective? And based on everything that we have right now and we've discussed so far, what is your advice on some of these themes?
So I think I mean, there's no way that I could advise the three gentlemen on this group because I think their organizations have been running such programs, and even though, as Kapilji said, COVID caught people unprepared, larger organizations to a certain extent still had the infrastructure to be able to just about manage, right? I think where we saw the worst impact was when it comes to smaller organizations, right? Like a 30-member company, a 300-member company, where there's a single person in the HR team who looks at everything from HRBP to enrolling employees to the wellness program. And just one more point I wanted to take on from what Mukeshji mentioned, which is the curation element, right? Which syncs up very well to what Kapilji mentioned in terms of the demands of our employees are changing. So why am I mentioning these points is because if you think about how a smaller company would go about setting up its group health insurance policy, right? Or a company that's not really looked at it in a comprehensive manner in the past, they would start off by thinking through, okay, what are the coverages and sublimits that I want to offer to my employees, right? What is it that I want to offer and what is it that I can afford to offer? Who all do I want to cover? Do I just want to cover my employee? Do I want to cover the parents? Do I also want to cover parents in law? Do I want to cover children, 2, 3, 4? Do I want to cover spouses? Do I want to cover same-sex partners? And I think the answer for each organization is different. Um, the third element I think which comes in is, do I want this to be a company paid policy or an employee paid policy? What can I really afford? And even if I can't afford it as an organization, can I, as an organization, at least do the bare minimum of providing that as an option to my employees? You may not have the budget as an organization, which is well and good. However, you can still, as a group, ensure that you offer your employees a significantly improved, catering to the demands which are changing insurance policy. Um, and then at the end of it, kind of look at the cost of all of this above, right? Very quickly touching upon the fact that with this change in demand, with how health insurance is evolving, there are certain elements that are new or that are now being marketed in a very different manner or being made transparent in a very different manner. So if you look at it, hospitalization accounts to about 20% of healthcare expenses in India, right? Uh, what about the OPD insurance? What about my general physician visit? Lab tests, upwards of 6,000 rupees. Dental care as well as checkups, eye care, medicines for all of the above. How do I make sure that my employees have access to a cashless OPD policy? Right. So this is one cover that we typically advise companies to include in their policy. As you know, a few of the panelists mentioned before this, specialist online consultations. So depending on your organization, do you need a GP? Do you need a COVID care specialist? Do you need a pediatrician? Do you need a cardiologist, a dietitian? Uh, all of these have separate costs, right? So which one do you need, and to what extent, and to how many employees? So I'll come to that in a little bit. Um, we've seen infertility treatment for both females as well as males becoming a topic of or a product that or a feature that a lot of people are asking for, right, upfront, without us saying that you can also opt for this. There are clients who are coming up to us saying, look, my employees have asked for this. There are coverages for differently abled children. Very often parents are not being able to handle the cost that is associated with it. There are critical illness plans, like my 3 lakh rupee policy is not going to help me if I get cancer or a motor neuron disease. There are preventive healthcare options, right? So I think thanks to the way that the regulator has created or structured the group health insurance product, it has never lacked the ability to include any feature under the sun to be provided to your employees, which is where I'm coming back to my first point, right? How do you make sure that you're providing a curated and relevant policy to your employees in a consumer centric manner? And I just want to touch upon these two elements, the relevance and the consumer centricity of it. How we go about it is we start off, especially in mid to large companies, and in small companies, we're digitizing the experience by doing a health risk assessment in a survey. Right? Let's understand what the employees really need. Let's understand whether your OPD is more important or a gym membership is more important. Right? If you're going to spend X thousand rupees anyway, let's spend it on the right item. Get the subjective human element of wellness advisory wrapped up around this. Based on these two steps, create cohorts within your company. Once you create these cohorts comes the most challenging part, that I've provided options to my employees, but what tools can I use to actually distribute these options to them in a manner that they really realize, okay, this is good for me. So how do you make sure that these flexible benefits are offered to your employees through a digital enrollment drive? If you want an element of company partially paying for something and the employee partially paying for something, how do you make sure that you have a wallet available to you so that you can put the money in the wallet and say, hey, these are your 20 options. We advise single parents to look at this. We advise people with children to look at this. We advise elderly people to look at this. However, it's up to you. You can add, subtract. It's a la carte. This is the base that you must have. Beyond this, what you choose is up to you. I have put 15,000 rupees into your wallet. 3,000 rupees is for your base policy. 12,000 you use as you like. And if something is left over, use the app, buy a cult fit membership. Just an example. So Uh, I think a large element of uh, uh, deploying a group health insurance policy to employees today is not just about us as creators of the policy or brokers or Kapil ji, Mukesh ji, Srinivas ji as the people who are going to be offering it to their employees, making sure that it's relevant and curated, but also what platform are you offering it to your employees on, right? Like there is a reason why Uber works better than Meru, right? There is a reason why Swiggy works better than ordering from your local restaurant on their website. There is an element of UI UX to it. There is an element of presentation to it. There is an element of explanation to it. Like HR teams and CNB teams and brokers are just about understanding how complex the topic can be. How do we expect our employees to understand it? So, the second part, which is presenting it to our employees in a consumer centric manner, is incredibly important because we sit in these kind of conversations, these kind of rooms where we talk to each other. We all have the knowledge about it, and we feel, okay, why doesn't the employee also get it? But hey, the employee has to run a factory line, or the employee has to go and deliver goods to your home, or the employee is working in a call center at Policy Bazaar. So you get my point. Like it has to be a mix of the curation and then presenting it to the employees on a platform which is consumer centric.
Absolutely. I think, again, that was very comprehensive. I think you spoke about different aspects and different opportunity areas that companies can think of, right, to augment wellness, right, from preventive healthcare to checkups to dental issues or newer issues like, whether it's critical illness or infertility. There are so many other aspects that you could consider and give in that employee basket. And I really like the emphasis that you had on relevance and customer centricity. When we speak about the role of digital solutions, I'm sure it's eased that awareness perspective also, right? Like employees, when they have access to that information that they need to make that choice, it's very important. So I want to come to Mukesh on this question. We've seen the workplace become very hybrid, right? What is the role of digital solutions here? I think we've Raghuveer has very clearly outlined how it's helpful. And how are you seeing it, Mukesh, in the context of your organization?
Yeah, so I think without a digital solution, the life could be unimaginable, and especially all your programs must have a digital thing. One, I see a lot of involvement and participation when you have a digital media. It's easy to connect with people. So let's say when we launched wellness app, now there's something which is immediately available on your smartphone. If you get into it, host lot of things is available which you can use it at your own convenience, and you can also try to personalize it depending on your preferences. If you are looking for something which is specific to nutrition, you can join that circle. Without having this thing in place, we organize one session without looking at who the audience would be, and we assume that everybody will absorb in the similar manner. We may not be curating the programs as per the requirement of the audience, whereas through a digital solution, every individual preference can be quite customized. Second bit is, any campaign which you run, it becomes far more reaching and far more easy to access through a digital medium. People work in various shifts. People have their own different time preferences. Having a digital media certainly makes a lot of a difference. Also, with connecting analytics and curating programs with digital media becomes very easy. So if I have a seamless flow as to where my person is, what are his health parameters, what are the recommendations of a doctor, and immediately I know these are the programs which a person should be undergoing, he'll be far more convinced adopting a program and participating in the same, rather than giving us one standard prescription that everybody should exercise or everybody should follow a leaner diet, whereas the person need could be something else. So that is something which helps. Again, hybrid is equally important because after a while, the whole digital thing becomes monotonous. If you don't collaborate and see your people, your peers also participating into similar kind of program, the reinforcement of the motivation is not there. You also get to learn from other experiences when you talk in person to people. At this also develops a sense of camaraderie amongst people when they meet. Let's say. So what we do over here, in addition to the digital platform for wellness, once a week we provide a physical space where people can come. They can participate in various health and fitness kind of an activities. They can participate in yoga, have good chit chat, learn from each other's experiences. Overall, the outcome is what we are looking for. We also organize a lot of sports events and all. So wellness is not only limited to the purpose of wellness and well-being. I think it has a far-reaching impact on development of the camaraderie, the bonding, the relationship, the knowledge sharing, relieving the unnecessary stress which gets piled up, development of a team building. We organize far more sports events these days after we have taken this wellness journey than ever, and we just see the enthusiasm amongst people. Oh, and so, therefore, I believe that it is quite essential that a hybrid model must be practiced and adopted everywhere. But when we do that, it has to be done with a lot of care, because too much of an overload of systems, processes, workflows actually kills it. If we provide too many options, then perhaps people tend to lose it. And therefore, what we also do sometimes is every week we organize a 15 minutes learning session on the wellness app and explain people that this is one of the feature which you may like to use it. Just a 15-minute session on them to make it more user friendly and make it more easy accessible to them.
That's great. That's great. I think a number of points you've covered there on access, on connectivity, convenience, and also the larger bonding aspect when you take it out of that digital context. Great. So, Srinivasan, could you talk about some of the things that you're doing from a digital perspective in TCS?
Absolutely. And there is a question, I think, in between that how do we balance productivity and efficiency while being empathetic? So I would give my point of view, and Mukeshji and Kaviji can definitely add on to it, where empathy is a fundamental bedrock on which the productivity and efficiency is built. Because empathy gives you that connect. Empathy gives you the ability to connect with that individual, why somebody is either performing or not performing, and provide the curated responses accordingly. Because that's a fundamental factor, that's bedrock on which these two are built for further, is what my views would be. On the digital front, one angle which post these 2 years, one element of wellness which became paramount, which obviously Kapilji already touched upon, was the emotional wellness, the mental wellness, not just the physical. Physical wellness is relatively visible, measurable, and as he rightly said, the lifestyle diseases, the comorbidity diseases, we know it. We know the relative actions also, how to control it. But one thing which came very, very vivid outside was, and which was unfortunately considered as a taboo, was also when I need a mental wellness, when I need a counseling, when I need somebody a sounding board, am I okay to go and ask for it? Am I ready to seek help for it? How will I be viewed? Will I be viewed differently? That no, he's not a normal guy. Why is he asking a counseling session like that? So that's something which we drove digitally. As he said, as Mukherjee rightly said, it is about creating that awareness is what we use digital platforms for. That it is nothing wrong when you need assistance. For example, when somebody's family underwent a COVID scenario, COVID stress, there was a personal loss. There's nothing wrong in somebody asking a support, emotional support, counseling support. We had a digital vendor, we had a digital partner, where it was initially a tough struggle for us to create that awareness, to break the taboo and say nothing wrong if we need to ask. We used both a pull effect as well as a push effect. What do you mean by push effect? We provided the data. These are the employees. You please reach. Professional counselors who are qualified in the language, in the particular domain, were requested to reach the employee and their family and sort and say, "Boss, are you okay? Are you comfortable?" And we also created enough awareness stating that this will be confidential. This will be a clear one-on-one discussion. There will be nothing where you will be judged, or no information about this will go out. So this created a relatively good platform where we saw the traction, and it's I'm happy to say that it's quite a lot of thousands of employees who started utilizing it, where it need not be a COVID, even after post-COVID scenario, even a simple work-related stress. Yes, people can bounce it off and say, okay, I feel it. How do I distract it? How do I overcome it? So the mental wellness is something which gave paramount importance And through this digital platform, number one, the awareness of, yes, you have to use it. It's not a taboo that you need a counseling or you need a support. Absolutely, go ahead and use it. And then, no, the ability to track of it, which really helped us over a period of time.
Absolutely. I think that's very well said. It's very important to let go of that taboo and to reassure people at the end of the day to use these programs. Kapil, I'm coming to you with the next question. We've spoken about the impact that these programs can have. How do you think we should think about some of these programs in the long term? How do you make these programs sustainable, and how do you make it inclusive as well?
Yes, so I think all of us, Mukesh, Srinivas, and I think Raghuveer, everybody touched that part. So organizations' intent has never been a challenge. If you see last 2 years, in some organizations, by virtue of their ethos and their values, it comes very naturally. And if you see Tata organizations, it comes very naturally to us. But many organizations, I have never seen there was a challenge in terms of the intent of coming forward and helping it. If you see the humanity today, the way the entire humanity has gone up, the way people felt that if I lend a hand to somebody else, there will be an ecosystem who's also been ready to help me also. So when you look for sustaining and being continuing these efforts, which has been built up with a very thorough structured research, and many people did a lot of research around the globe to understand that how countries and organizations protected and we prepared for this entire period of it. I think two things are coming very very clearly, and Raghuveer and I think Mukeshji has spoken in a very detail about it. See, the first thing is a very, very focused, sharp communication. You have an offering, but people don't know about it. If I know about it, I will be able to leverage about it. That's very, very important. Whether it is in a digital platform, whether it is in a small personal meetings, whether it is a 1 minute conversation with reporting managers and an employee, whether there are any such platform where the employees get together, it's important that whatever offering as an organization has created around the wellness, that must be spoken in a great extent within the organization. And I think organizations must speak in the similar way and in a more assertive way outside the organization, because there's a world outside the organization who's looking forward to join you as their talent journey. So it is important that whatever the wellness activities which has happened inside the organization, that must be also equally been communicated outside the organization. And today, I think the social media gives us a great platform to share why you are so different than others. You will. I'll just take in a minute just to share with, and I'm sure all colleagues will agree with it. It's the first time I'm seeing in last couple of months when the candidate when discuss with you, the focus is not on financials benefit. The focus is on relational benefits. The candidate is looking forward to understand what is that relational coverage I get, so that at a point of crisis, at a point of when there's a struggle, how organization is creating that preparedness, how organization is going to take care of me. And I think this attitude change, which is now happening with all that efforts which every great organization have done, I think this is something which we need to be sustained. So this is the point number one. The second, I think Srinivas has spoke about inclusivity. It's very, very important that we must remain transparent and truthful in our intent to be committed for these efforts. These efforts are not one time, and these efforts are not comes with a cosmetic touch. And I think Jerry, you also spoke about it. That it's not about how your total rewards team is thinking about putting benefits around it. It's the most important is that the core of the organization, is that organization is completely committed for it to ensure that these wellness programs are not one time offering. And in this process, I think the very knowledgeable colleagues like Policy Bazaar and many other organizations which are sharing their thoughts, which are sharing their experiences, data, their analysis, and they're really helping organizations to understand that are you optimally ensuring all that unseen, uncovered challenges in your profile or not. So it's not about today the relationship between a sales organization and a consumer organization. Today the discussion is both the organizations and organizations who offer the products are been working together to think around it, that is sufficient, is that is enough, is that is optimum, which can ensure that the employees are being well taken care in the entire process. So I think two things important. One, very assertive communication within and outside the organization. Second, a very strong and a very committed intent to drive these initiatives where everyone has been given their thoughts. And I will just take a minute to acknowledge and appreciate the way that every HR champion in last 2 years has really grown up and scaled up in bringing this around the organization and creating that faith and trust that every employee is absolutely critical and important, and every life is important because every life adds value to organizations and society. So these two things, if organization remain focused, will be making it sustainable and inclusive.
Absolutely. I think couldn't have said it better, Kapil. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm conscious of time. I think we have about 10 minutes. We'll quickly move to some questions from the audience, but I also want to circle back on the questions on ROI and impact. Maybe we'll take that a little later. And we'll address some of the audience questions first. So, how can SMEs and MSMEs find the right insurance plan despite having a limited budget? Raghuvi, you wanted to take this.
Sure. So, look, first of all, group health insurance fundamentally is not because the risk is pooled. It is significantly less expensive than buying retail health insurance. Significantly less expensive. I should not be saying that as policy bazaar, but it's the right thing to say. Now, so for 1 lakh rupee cover, for example, it can be as little as 100 rupees per month per employee, right? Like a very basic cover just to make sure that your employees' day-to-day requirements can be taken care of. I mean, we incentivize our employees more with the coffee machine in office in a month. So just putting it in perspective, right? So by itself, it is not a challenge. Now, there is another option. Once you have your pool of employees, you don't have to pay for everything. Some parts can be paid by the employee, some parts can be paid by the employer. Some parts can be voluntary, some parts can be mandatory, right? So there are multiple ways in which you can structure your policy for your employees so that it becomes more affordable as an organization, yet remains relevant from a employee perspective. What we have tried to do over the last year and a half is we've tried to digitize the purchase of SME group health insurance. So if you look at what was happening till about 2 years back, if you were a group, if you were a small team of, let's say, 10, 20 people, the larger traditional brokers were not going to come and meet you. Like a Marsh or an Aon or a Prudent is not going to come and say, hi, 8-member team, how can I help you? Right? So it was more the bank assurance channel or the agent who would come and meet you. And typically, these are people who may or may not be fully, let's say, prepared to be able to pitch the correct group health insurance plan to you, because it is a deeper subject than a retail product, right? What we did was we basically got the grids from the insurers, sorry, getting a little technical here, and built a platform where somebody can come and browse, select, and buy, right? A group health insurance, a group term life, a group personal accident, and many other products for their company, right? So you can come, you can say, okay, maternity more, less, off, on, pre-existing diseases on, off, right? Add parents, remove parents, add spouse, remove spouse. You can toggle around with it and see, okay, this I can afford, right? Simultaneously, you have assistance from the back end being provided to you. And why is it effective? Because it is call center driven. If I had to come to your office to talk to you about it, it would be a lot more expensive. I could not afford it, right? The margins don't exist. So, to answer the question, I think there are multiple companies. I will not just say Policy Bazaar. There are multiple companies. You go on Google and you find them who are today trying to solve the problem of the small and medium enterprise when it comes to identification and purchase of a group health insurance policy online.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we have a question on how can we protect employees' mental health, those who come to work or who are working hybrid. Srinivasan, would you like to take this?
Yeah, absolutely. See, the definition of mental health has undergone a tremendous change post COVID over a period of years. So it starts from work life stress, right? It starts from the ability to cope up a family situation, ability to cope up a personal situation, and also my family members. So, number one is, do we have platform for people to engage on a one-on-one basis if they need support or a request? That's point number one. If not, yeah, there are enough and over digital providers now. You can Google it and check it out. We tied up with one. There are enough and over qualified professionals, counseling professionals, who are part of that. In fact, very surprisingly, some are doing it even for gig. As a gig, they employ somewhere and they provide on a personal basis. They get tied up with organizations, and they provide the service to the organizations and to the employees. So, A, in terms of protecting the mental health, one, creating an awareness and communication and creating a platform for people to reach out. And B, as I told, it's not a taboo to ask. If that barrier could be broken and said it's not a taboo to ask, seek help, no, then definitely we can create an environment. Once there are success stories built around this, for example, can I take a minute, Jerry?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we, as I told you, we had both a pull and a push effect, where we did a push calling of certain family members. And since as I told you, these are all psychological trained professionals. If there is a risk of a suicide mentality of somebody, tending towards that, we get a red flag, and we said we go back. And we happen to get one red flag for one of the employees' daughter who's undergoing some examination related stress, and which rightly we intervened. We are able to communicate back to the family and said, boss, the ward is undergoing some challenge in terms of the examination stress, take care. And no, may or may not be, it's only a probability. But what I'm talking about is the taboo in terms of reaching out is not a challenge. See, when I need a help, when I need a help, mental help, or any help related to stress, nothing wrong in me asking a help. That itself is more than enough. You create that platform. Thank you.
Absolutely. Um, Raghuveer, you wanted to add something on the gig workforce, the opportunities for them. Yeah.
So very quickly, just one small point over what Srinivas sir just mentioned, right? When you're talking about specifically about taboo or insecurity of employees, I think the digital medium not only allows customization and tracking the way Mukesh ji and Kapil ji mentioned earlier, but it also allows for data to be preserved, privacy to be preserved. If Excel sheets are roaming around my organization, and I know that as an employee, and I know that insurer, broker, TPA, HR regional, HR head office is moving around Excel sheets which may or may not be password protected, versus if my data is coming in an API and only visible to n number of people, and tomorrow if there is a leak, I'm not saying digitization does not lead to leaks, but I will know where the leak originated from, right? So just adding that, very often what we see is that when it comes to, let's say, a same-sex partner being added to the policy, people just don't do it. They say, yeah, I don't want my company to know. Or when it comes to, let's say, mental health, as Srinivasan sir just mentioned, it becomes a taboo topic. It becomes a concern. Oh my God, what happens if my boss finds out? What happens if forget boss, what happens if my colleague finds out?
Yeah.
So just kind of putting that out there, right? Very quickly on the gig economy worker piece, I think again I'm over harping on the word digital, but look, there are multiple ways in which you can roll out a policy to your employees, right? Like we have this very cool app. It works really nicely. It has all the features. It has your stepathon challenge, walkathon challenge, your fitness content, pure fit integration, online claim filing, etc., etc. But it's in English, right? How do I make sure that a rider for the person who brings you your Amazon parcel at home, or a person who brings your food to your doorstep, how do I make sure I build an app which is available in Kannada, Gujarati, Hindi, Tamil, and multiple other languages, right? Now, building an app may take me years to do in that format, but I can build a simple WhatsApp bot. On that WhatsApp bot, you can chat with my team. On that WhatsApp bot, you can file your claim. On that WhatsApp bot, you can order the medicines that your policy includes. You can see the status of your claim. Right? This is one example. The second example where technology helps is, for example, we have an on-off policy. Right? Now, what is an on-off policy? It means I'm a rider today for Swiggy. Tomorrow I may be a rider for Zomato. Day after I may be somewhere else. Now, how do I make sure that as an organization, now I'm changing, as an organization, I'm able to provide a policy for the people who are with me, right? So, for example, somebody has been with me for 7 days, your policy starts. You leave after 5 days, you don't switch on your app for 3 days, your policy halts. But hey, after that you join back, your policy starts again. So the nuances of this new type of workforce need to be dealt by having not just digitization but also product recreation. Um, I think we are in a little bit of a time crunch. Otherwise, I have multiple other such examples. But I feel that both brokers and insurance companies have responded to the emergence of the gig economy worker with multiple solutions.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, it's quite fascinating to hear the opportunity that is there for organizations today. I want us to address a little bit about the ROI piece as well and the impact piece as well. And I want to come to Mukesh first, and then we'll do a round very quickly. How are you thinking about impact? Of course, we've spoken about the three pillars you're focusing on, right? Right from
Yeah. So, there are few things which comes directly from value. So during COVID time, we lost a lot of our colleagues, almost more than 100 in Tata Steel Group. And without even a second thinking, the nominees were given last salary till the age of retirement of the nominee. Very benevolent thing. It comes from value. It cannot be measured. So something similar. Wellness, when we launch wellness plans, it is not about what is the ROI. It comes directly from values. And we firmly believe that even if I am able to make an impact on one individual, and his life is getting transformed, the ROI of the is already there. What we should be looking at is the ROI of the wellness plan, and not ROI of the wellness plan on the business. Whether my wellness plan is leading to my desired results or not, whether my wellness plan is helping my people transforming their own lives or not, is what we are looking at. However, if at all we want to measure some of the business metric, they can always be done. So in a manufacturing setup, we keep some extra buffer of people just to manage the leaves, absences, and all. The buffer can come down, and therefore the employee cost come down significantly. The claim ratio determines the next year premium of your insurance. So having a proactive wellness plan, a preventive wellness plan, can certainly bring down your cost of insurance. And above all, your employee engagement, your employee productivity goes high quite a bit, which has a direct impact on the business results, the outcomes of their own performance and all. So I think this is my take on ROI.
Absolutely. I think that's a good place to pause this discussion. I think as we found that we can just keep going on talking about the different aspects of wellness and the opportunities that it has for all of us. And it's great to see all the innovation that's coming in due to technology. So thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Kapil, Mukesh, Srinivasan, and Raghuveer, for giving us your time and sharing with us your inputs, and also feeling free to share what you're doing within your companies. So this was a really insightful discussion. Thank you so much. I'd also like to thank our partner for this discussion, Policy Bazaar, for helping us have this conversation today. And our audience, thank you for your questions. It was really engaging, and we look forward to having you all for many more such exciting discussions. Thank you, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. It
Thank
was
you,
a
everyone.
pleasure.